Time for World Tour cycling right here on beIN Sports. The second biggest race competition in the world after the Tour de France will be live here on beIN next weekend with the 96th annual Giro d'Italia. But first, the warm-up to the competition with the Tour de Romandie reaching the final stages on the path to Geneva. Great Britain's Chris Froome of Team Sky leads the way with 13 hours, 53 minutes and 16 seconds, with American Andrew Talansky just 6 seconds behind. Day 4 now from the Tour de Romandie right here on beIN Sport.
Good afternoon and very warm welcome to a very rainy, wintry and cold Tour de Romandie 2013. It is today the fifth stage and we're here in the mountains yet again. It's GC Day. It was supposed to be the Queen stage, the big stage, the one that was going to decide just about everything. However, unfortunately, we've had to change the route. The weather's got in the way. Only once up the Col de la Croix, which was due to be the marquee ascent of this Tour de Romandie, and this is the changed profile. Starting in Mali, 184.8 kilometers and a little faster than we anticipated at the start. Instead of a big climb in the descent, it's the slow, gradual, winding climb from Aigle up to Les Diablerets, the ski resort where we sit speaking to you. 6 degrees at the moment on the road. This is how the classement stands, the general classification. Christopher Froome 6 seconds ahead of Andrew Talansky, who's his big rival today. Gianni Meersman's up there, but don't expect him to play a part. He has since climbed off his bike. Remember, he is in that mix thanks to the bonus seconds he has from winning 2 stages. Jerseys today, Chris Froome in yellow, sprints Matti Brendel. Mountain jersey, the pink jersey, Marcus Burghardt. He'll now keep that all the way to Geneva. And Thibaut Pinot, look out for him, riding very, very well in the white Young Riders jersey. So this stage has lost around 25% of its climbing. We expect a decent group perhaps to contest the finish. However, at the moment we've had a big counter-attack. Tony Martin has joined Arthur Vichot. And here to tell you a bit about what that might mean for this race is Brian Smith.
Well, Tony Martin is really going for it today. He's still got quite about 20.4 kilometres to go to the finish in a fairly tough climb. But you know, it's great to see the former, the actual world time trial champion putting these efforts in this Tour de Romandie stage, and it's been constant changes all day. You can just see the attire that these riders have got on. It started very, very cold. Okay, it's a changed parcours, but great race in 1 minute and 10 with Sky down to 3 riders in the front of the yellow jersey of Chris Froome.
Well, this is now the first category climb that the peloton has been over today. Peloton controlled most of the day by Sky, with a few Movistar riders lurking behind. Going through Aigle at the moment, which is the headquarters of the International Cycling Union. Big cycling centre just down the road, huge velodrome as well, and of course the offices. Now the road will start to rise, and this is going to be a key part of the yellow jersey defence for Chris Froome. The gap is 1 minute and 10 seconds, just 19.6 kilometres remain, but the man out front, Tony Martin, is a big danger to the overall classification, certainly given the fact that he's probably expected to be the strongest time trialer tomorrow. Chris Froome is a man who's also expected to perform strongly in the time trial, but with only 29 seconds at the minute separating Martin and Froome, today, Brian, could be a big key as to who wears the yellow jersey tomorrow afternoon in Geneva.
Well, I still think at the end it's going to be very close, but I can say that the climbers that are here, the likes of Talansky, Keselowski, Rui Costa, Pinot, even Valverde, they have to attack in this final climb. It's 19 kilometres towards the finish. It kind of kicks up a bit early on, but then it's fairly falls flat and flat all the way towards the finishing line. And Yeah, they will have to go on the attack. They cannot leave it to the time trial tomorrow. I'm a little surprised that Tony Martin has went for it so soon. He came off the descent, flew off the descent. Tricky descent it was, took advantage, and it's 1 minute and 10 in front. He only needs 29 seconds at the finish. You've got to remember there's a 10, 6 and 4 time bonus, so that could play for. And if Chris Froome loses this jersey tomorrow with only a few seconds, he'll still be one of the favourites in the time trial tomorrow.
Just to explain very, very briefly, given the fact that we haven't got long to go, we see the Chateau d'Aigle. But what happened this morning was a four-man breakaway. Marcus Berghardt went out in search of King of the Mountains points. He has got those points, and he will wear pink on the podium at the end of the race tomorrow in Geneva. So that's success for BMC, the Swiss team. Arthur Vichot of Française des Jeux, still out there in the break, was in the original break, the only surviving member of that. And they had Tom Dumoulin and Matti Brendel for company. Brendel as well picking up the sprints, and he will also wear the green jersey on the podium tomorrow.
Well, Kirienka's just done his job there, and he took it to the bottom of the climb. Mr. Steele they call him, and now leaves Lopez at the front and Richie Porte and the yellow jersey of Chris Froome. A lot of the riders discarding their rainwear. It is kind of drying up at the finish, but it's going to be a tough climb. A lot of these riders really have to go on the attack if they're thinking of winning the Tour of Romandie this year.
So many names, so many possibilities, not just for the stage win, but also as the general classification is concerned. We've had a heap of riders climb off today. We had 4 non-starters, which were Roberto Ferrari, Matt Goss, Jose Ruhano, which was a big surprise. He told us yesterday that he was going to have a go at this stage, but obviously not wanting to risk too much as far as illness is concerned, and not too much of a surprise to see Kenny de Haas of Lotto climb off either. Ever since, we've lost the likes of Mark Cavendish and lots of other riders who you wouldn't expect to carry on. Chris Sutton as well, Dennis Van den Dert, Jan Houget of course climbed up early in the week. Brett Lancaster's gone, around 20 to 30 people going, as now we begin the serious business of this climb. Tony Martin managing to start distancing Arthur Vichot here. Vichot, who's been out in the break all day long, I think now has finally blown. So it's Martin, 1 minute and 1 second ahead of Chris Froome and the rest of the chasing peloton, playing his big card here on the Tour de Romandie 2013. It's worth remembering, Brian, that this is a man who's won week-long stage races before. He's won huge, prestigious races. He is much more than a simple time trialist.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's come here. He's, the team have done very well, 2 stage wins, and that gives you confidence. And again, we said this, a bit of a surprise. He went on the attack early because he is 29 seconds down. He knows that he's got a good time trial in him, being the world champion, and he could have just sat in this group and left it to the time trial tomorrow, but he knows that Chris Froome is another good time trialist, and after a week-long race it's going to be very difficult. So Tony Martin is certainly out there. He's testing himself and looks as if he's going very well. Just at the back, just to let you know, Ruhano is still in this race for Vacansoleil. A lot of the information coming throughout the day is not coming through because of obviously the weather conditions. But Tony Martin certainly out there. Gap coming down to 53 seconds, 17.2 kilometres to go to the finish.
So some conflicting reports. Reports we are getting confirmed now. A recent abandon of Josh Edmondson for Sky, the number 2. Peter Kenyik's gone, as has John Gadret, who is himself a decent climber, the former cyclocrosser from Agir Desert. 17 kilometres to go. The gap going down now, 50 seconds between Tony Martin and the yellow jersey. Chris Froome has Richie Porte and David Lopez in front of him. Andrew Talansky looks pretty isolated for Garmin. And at the moment, Movistar and their twin-pronged attack of Rui Costa and Alejandro Valverde are out of the picture. Thibaut Pinot, a man to watch out for. There is Alejandro Valverde, the number 31. Looking at the profile and what we've got today, I think it certainly favours very much an attack from Movistar. Again, they have to do it. And the profile, I think, is pretty much suited to their double attacking. They've got 2 men, very much like Sky have 2 men. Valverde can use Rui Costa, who's won the Tour de Suisse before. He was 3rd here last year. And I certainly think it gives them good options. Movistar making their way back to the front and the right-hand side. Thibaut Pinot, remember, in the white jersey, the best young rider so far. Andrew Talansky, the closest rival, as I said, just 6 seconds back from Chris Froome. Mountains on the way to the arrival today and in the way of this attempted yellow jersey defence by Chris Froome and Sky. We've had the Col de Mos, just once up the Col de la Coin. You and I drove up there this morning. It was pretty horrible. 3 degrees, big banks of snow. Do you think in the end, as we see Arthur Vichot come over, Brian, that it was the correct decision to take that out the race towards the end, the descent?
For me, still 50-50. You'd never take a chance in the weather, but the weather hasn't deteriorated anything. It's stayed pretty much constant at the finishing line here, and I think they could have possibly risked it. But yeah, maybe the pressure of some of the sports directors and some of the riders have decided to take it, thinking of that rather than take the risk.
Dmitry Kozanchuk of Katusha just attempting to get off the front, but it is not going to be easy with a decent tempo that's been set with those teams at the front. Blanco, another team to look out for today. They've been going very, very well this week. Chatted this week about them coming back from Mount Teide.
This is in fact Robert Hissink, just drifting out the back here, number 81, and that's a rider that we were thinking today he has to gain time. Maybe not the best time trials when you think of Tony Martin and Chris Froome, but yeah, it just goes to show you these conditions are really hurting a lot of these riders, and we only have about 50-60 riders left in this main peloton.
Well, you mentioned it, Brian. Talked about the misinformation. There is Jose Rojano right at the back of that group for Vacansoleil. This in the meantime is Kozanchuk. Katusha have had a very, very good start of the season after their early problems during the winter. In fact, quite a few of their riders at races around Europe today. I know that Luca Paolini climbed off in Turkey, all in preparation for the Giro beginning next week. A couple of their riders were non-starters as well. We saw Dani Moreno pack it in yesterday.
Well, did you see the quick step car just been told to pull over? This gap coming down now. Must be just about 30 seconds now to the front of the group. So Tony Martin just kind of hanging in there. The first attack in this climb by Katusha, but there's still a lot of attacking still to come, and that's if you've still got it in the legs. A lot of these temperatures and conditions really sap the energy, and Team Sky down to only 2 riders in front of the yellow jersey of Chris Froome. They are using up Lopez, which means further up the climb Richie Porte will need to be called in.
Just over 15 kilometres to go. Kozanchuk's attack is the one that's wheeled in by David Lopez, the climber from northern Spain. Frances Desjeux rider just dropped off the end. That will actually be Arthur Vichot. 30 seconds to gap now. Plenty of Swiss flags waving. A lot of support for Steve Morabito on the climbs today. The MC rider, as we see the clear frame of Chris Anker Sorensen on the back. Still opportunities for the Swiss as well elsewhere, in the shape of Michael Alberzini from Orica Green Edge.
I was just about to point him out. If he actually gets up this hard part of the climb, which is the part we're on now, if he gets over the top, then if this comes to a 20-30 man group sprint, Alberzini is very capable of winning a stage here.
Well, he actually drove up this climb last night. Again, you talk about how hard it is, Paul, at the start of this climb, but as you get towards the end, just describe to the viewers what the sort of change of the gradient is.
Well, you're only talking from, I would say, within the last 10 kilometres, the gradient is between 0 and 4%. We're on the bottom of the climb and probably about 5 or 6%. It's not a real difficult climb. You've got to remember that they adjusted the parcours, and this does suit some of the riders that can climb with a punch in their legs. And I'm thinking maybe Valverde, if Alberzini is very capable of getting up a climb like this, so it could possibly change the stage winner, because it was a very difficult stage today and it would have split up quite all over the place. But yeah, I think a group of 20, 30, possibly 40 could come to the finish.